You are watching Daughters of the King, a ministry designed to uplift and encourage women of all colors and ages through everyday struggles of life. Many of us women have been beat down in the waves of life, and our goal is to help you come to the knowledge that you are loved by God. It doesn't matter what walk of life you have come from. God is calling you forth to fulfill your destiny in Him. Stay tuned for tonight's message, starting now. Hi, welcome to Daughters of the King. Tonight we are going to recap some of our previous messages, one being about Queen Vashti, another, Soul Wounds of a Woman, and another, The God Who Sees Me. You can find the full episodes on our YouTube page for Daughters of the King. Check it out. Now, the king is drawn to royalty and beauty. And this is why I like the king, because he opened his palace doors to the most poorest. It didn't matter what you had. He invited you into the palace for 7 days, and he said, come on in, come and partake of what I have. Just enjoy yourself. Now, something happened on the 7th day, which was the last day of the banquet to the king. He was high in spirits, and he commanded for his eunuchs to send a commandment to Queen Vashti, his wife. He commanded for her to come out before the people in her royalty and her crown. Now, I believe that he admired her. I believe that he was in awe of her. I believe he wanted to celebrate her and her beauty. This is what he was drawn to. This was a part of his life, and he wanted to show her off in front of the people. Now think about how many different kind of people could have been in this palace at this point. When the eunuchs went forth to set out the commandment for the king, Queen Vashti responded in a negative way. She refused to come before the people. She refused to come before the king. And I tell you, I believe this brought embarrassment and shame before the king. I don't think he was expecting her attitude to be that way. And she had to pay a price. She had to pay a price. She was unwilling to accept the command. She was unwilling to allow for the king to actually have his moment. She disobeyed the order that the king set out for her to do. I want to talk about the conversation that the king had with the nobles after this took place, because now, remember I told you that he's not a king that's outside the law. He's not above the law. He actually submitted himself to the law, stuck with tradition, and went before his noble people. These are people who are high in character. These are people who have wisdom and knowledge of the law in the land, okay? And these are also the people that were closest to him. But he had to consult them because he needed to understand what the law said to do with Queen Vashti. So when he went before the nobles and said, according to the law, what must be done to Queen Vashti, she had not obeyed the command, the king, that the eunuchs have taken to her. There was a gentleman named Memucan that actually spoke up before the nobles and the king. And this is what he said. He said, Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and the peoples of all the provinces of the king. For the queen's conduct will become known to all the women, and so will they despise their husbands and say, King, the king commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. This very day, the Persian and the Median women of the nobility who have heard about the queen's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. there will be no end of disrespect and discord. So Memucan is saying, if I may please share with you that this is a problem. The queen is wrong, and she's going to have the women of Persia and Median come against us if they follow her, because the queen is supposed to be a woman of influence. So whatever the queen is doing, and these women, her having her own banquet, I know she had to do this in front of these women. Her having her own banquet at the same time as the king, I know that these women saw her response to the eunuchs, and they saw that she stood her ground and did not obey that command. That's not right. That's not right. This is what happened. Memucan continues to speak on, and he says, therefore, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree, and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, meaning which cannot be reversed, that Vashti is never again. Now listen to this, because before she did this act, she was Queen Vashti. He has already in his mind took the crown off of her head. He has already lost all respect for Queen Vashti, because she's no longer Queen Vashti to him. He just said Vashti. That Vashti is never again to enter the presence of the king. Do you see how one act can destroy a relationship? One act that's just not okay can make you look a certain way. I'm not saying that we need to be perfect, because we're not. But what I am saying is she was queen, and she should have understood that she cannot come against the king in front of everybody like that. This was a night. All they had to do was get through that one last night. It was the last night, and he wanted to honor her. He wanted to give her glory, and she refused. So these noble men, these men who are excellent in character, they caught it. They caught the poison that she was carrying, and they said, no, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem, and if we don't fix this, if we don't do this in the right way, our women, our wives are going to raise up against us, and it's not going to be okay, because there will never be an end to disrespect and discord. Now, Memucan also suggested this. He said, let the king give her royal position to someone else who was better than she. Then, when the king's edict is proclaimed throughout all the vast realm, all the women will respect their husbands, from the least to the greatest. The king and his nobles were pleased with this advice. So the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent dispatches to all parts of the kingdom. Remember that whole map, all of those 127 provinces. The word was sent out. And this is what it said, that all men, every man, should be ruler over his own household, using his native tongue. God desires to take us from a place of inferior, which is a low place, a low rank, to a place of influence. I've been speaking to you about this over the past few weeks, that, God wants to have his daughters rise up into a place of influence. Now, if you have ever questioned yourself, or if anyone has ever questioned you about, wanting to be a leader, or a woman of influence, your first thought may be, no, I don't really look at myself like that. I don't really care to be a woman of influence because I'm just going to be who God created me to be. But here's the thing. We're going to influence no matter what. We're going to influence the people around us. So, God wants to actually take us as strong women, as strong vessels of honor, and use us to be a true woman of influence. Now, you can influence in a good way and you can influence in a bad way. And if you have soul wounds that are not healed, it's a possibility that you have a mixture, that you have influenced in both good and bad. And God just wants us to be on an even keel. He wants us to be so in tune to His Spirit, so in tune to what He's doing, where we don't have to wonder or question, did I just do or say something right? Did I do something wrong? He doesn't want us to live in a place where we're either living in our flesh or we're living in a soulish realm that our soul has been injured and we act out in that nature. Many of us do not know how much damage occurs when we are injured in our soul. We really don't even understand how we become split, how deep that root settles into our vessel. And if you have been wounded over and over in the same area of your life, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. That root gets deeper. And it's hard for us to bounce back from this type of soul wound that, last week I told you that we're always, or it feels like we're getting cut all over. We're bleeding all over the place. And this is something that the enemy does. He comes and he doesn't play fair. So he will attack us in any way that we possibly could be attacked. And he comes and he just constantly buffets at us, either in the same area of our life, or he'll constantly bring up new things to torment us. And these things develop soul wounds. And then we become a weak vessel before God and before the people. And God doesn't want us to be like that. He wants us to be strong towers. He wants us to be able to understand, yep, there is a battle. There's going to always be a battle. But we don't have to fall into the traps that the enemy has placed upon us on a continual basis. We can learn from these things, from these experiences that has happened to us, and we can learn how to live in the Spirit of God, which is going to help us remain free. All of this ties into the name El Roy, which is the name we're going to speak about this week. And this is the name that says, God who sees me. God who sees me. This name was given to God by Hagar when Hagar had to flee from Sarai. And I'm going to tell you, it is so wonderful to know, to understand that God sees everything. He sees everything. He sees when we make a mistake. He sees when we are falling. He sees when we are up. He sees when we are rejoicing, celebrating. I mean, he just, everything. There's nothing possible that you can hide from God. Not one single thing. And when Hagar fled, she was in misery from Sarai, because Sarai, who was Abram's wife at that time, Sarai gave Hagar to Abram as a wife so that they might have children through Hagar. I think Sarai wanted Abram to be blessed with children. I think that she wanted to really give him the children or a child, but at the age that she was at, she said, God left me barren. And, you know, I believe she thought about Hagar and said, let's go ahead and try to build a family through Hagar. And so Abram honored her thought. He honored her desire, and he married Hagar, and he laid with her, and she became pregnant. So here's where the issue comes in at, because now Hagar is the wife of Abram, and she's also pregnant. So for some reason, really don't know why, but Hagar started to despise Sarai, and Sarai knew it, and Sarai didn't like it, and Sarai put Hagar through misery. Now, ladies, I'm going to share this with you because we have to understand that we're not perfect, but we will pay a price for the things that we do that is not right. And sometimes that price costs us a lot. So, you know, when Hagar decided to despise Sarai, sounds like Sarai put her through the ringer. She didn't hold no mercy on her. She just let her have it, and Hagar ended up fleeing out into the desert. And this is how awesome God is, knowing the emotions, knowing that Hagar despised Sarai, God still met Hagar. God allowed for Hagar to understand, hey, I'm looking at you. I'm going to take Sarai, I'm going to take Abram, I'm going to take everything that you know out of the picture right now. We're going to have a personal, private moment. This is who God is. And I can tell you, when I read this story, when I was studying this story, it just brought so much attention to how God pays attention to us as individuals. As an individual, you're looking at Hagar, who was an Egyptian slave, meaning she could have felt like she was at the bottom. She probably was doing a whole bunch of different things for Sarai, supporting her, helping her in the background, helping her do whatever, you know, whatever came to mind. So, was Hagar wrong for despising Sarah? I would say so. But God, in his goodness, in his grace, and in his mercy, he met Hagar out in that desert when Hagar fled. And let's get into scripture. Let's talk about the conversation that God had through an angel. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, knowing her personally, you see that? He said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? I think God wanted to challenge her. I think he wanted her to stop and think about what was going on at that moment. Hagar says, I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai. She answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her. Then the angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. So this angel is holding a conversation with her on behalf of the Lord. And the angel says, go back and submit to your mistress. Now, Job 22:21 says, submit to God and be at peace with him. In this way, prosperity will come to you. Now, the angel goes on to say, You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son, and you shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. Now, I didn't know that Ishmael I didn't know that Ishmael means God hears. I didn't know that until I was studying this message. But for the angel to say, for the Lord has heard of your misery, that means that Sarai put Hagar through the ringer. So she paid a price for her to despise Sarai. But God was able to reach out to Hagar, turn her back around, get her to the place where she needed to be mentally, where she needed to be physically, which is to go back and do what you said you would do, which is be a wife to Abram and have a child. Now, this was not God's perfect will, which is another reason why this blows my mind, because Sarai died of this whole thing, and I really believe Sarai was at the point where she thought she can fix her life. She thought that she can fix Abram's life by saying, let's use Hagar, my Egyptian slave, to have children, when in fact this wasn't what God planned, because as you read further along, he really wanted to bless Sarai himself. He wanted Sarai and Abram to have a child on their own. So this amazes me that even though this whole thing was in God's permissive will, not his perfect will, God can still turn things around for your good as an individual. Because yes, Sarai was wrong. Yes, Hagar was wrong. But God blessed both of these women and gave both of them children.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope that you were blessed by Soul Wounds of a Woman, The God Who Sees Me, and Queen Vashti. There's more in our archives on the Daughter of the King YouTube page. Be blessed. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Daughters of the King. We appreciate your support. You can reach me at www.dotking.org. That's www.dotking.org. You can subscribe or send a message through live chat, or you can send an email to Catherine, Kathryn, at dotking.org. This ministry is designed to speak to your heart. Feel free to share your thoughts about the message or give insight on a topic that you would like for me to discuss. We are here for you.